of Passover, the major Jewish holiday that celebrates freedom after hundreds of years of enslavement. It's coming at a time when there's serious concern within the Jewish community between anti-Semitic comments from high-profile figures and the rise in vicious attacks. So many are living in fear, which is just a shame. My next guest is a young TikTok star whose dance moves helped her rack up over 12 million followers on social media. Now she's actually using her global platform to spread awareness and combat anti-Semitism. We call that a rad human. Everybody, please welcome Montana Tucker.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You have the greatest name ever, by the way.
Thank you so much. And it's my birth name, I promise.
Montana Tucker is the coolest name ever.
Thank you. Thanks.
I know, to Mama, she's here with us today, but that's a cool name. So I have to ask, how did you become an advocate for the Jewish community?
Yeah, so I started off making these really happy, fun dance videos. And with the recent rise in anti-Semitism, I knew that I wanted to do something bigger and deeper with my platform. And I am a proud Jewish woman. Both of my grandparents are Holocaust survivors.
Wow.
Thank you, thank you. And I always heard the stories my whole life. My grandparents used to speak at all their schools and all the schools, and it was always important for them, education, education. So my Zaidi grandfather, he passed away 3.5 years ago, but he used to wear a pin all the time that said, "Never forget, never again, I'm a survivor." So I knew that now this is my turn. This is my turn to make sure that people never forget.
Absolutely. What a beautiful legacy to keep reminding everyone. So what was the response when you started kind of shifting?
So when I first posted just a lighthearted photo of my grandparents, the comments were so shocking. I don't even want to repeat some of them on live TV, but a lot of them were, I shared that my grandparents were Holocaust survivors and that I was Jewish, and people said, "Oh, of course you're Jewish and making everything about yourself," or "The Holocaust never existed." I mean, how could people say the Holocaust never existed?
Well, some people still think the planet Earth is flat.
It's just, it's mind-boggling to
Keep
me.
walking.
Keep walking, where are you gonna go?
Find me in.
Seriously,
Yeah.
and so I knew that, you know, I had this opportunity now to educate.
Yeah.
And over 60, there's a survey that said over 60% of millennials didn't know that over 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust.
How do they not learn that in school? I remember learning that in school alone.
Well, apparently not all states in the US require Holocaust education.
Wow.
Yeah.
Literally, I'm so blessed. I was at a school that literally took us to Dachau, I think is how you pronounce
yep.
it. Yeah, and it was, I encourage every school to do every kind of, we're, you know, not a rich city where I'm from, and we had to like raise money to go. But when we went overseas, it was the most, it makes the most impact to a child to see something like that and go, wait, what? Like this happened? And you walk through everything. It moves you in such a different way. And I think people that have never experienced that, sometimes people can have a hard time even believing it was real, right? Because it's so horrific.
That's why, like, people need to see this. People need to experience it.
That's why the pin was important that your grandfather wore.
And even if you don't have the opportunity to go to a camp, which I hope that everyone can, but if you don't have...
Even Googling at this point, like, whenever I was young, they didn't have, like, we didn't have the option. I'm a lot older than you. There wasn't the option of, like, now you can Google. You can literally get online and see so much, and there's so much information out there.
And unfortunately, there's still so much doubt.
And so much misinformation.
Yeah.
That is a problem as well. Well, you were inspired to take a trip to Poland, so tell us about that trip.
Yes, so there's another study that says over 90% of the Jews in Poland were killed during World War II. My grandma is a survivor of Auschwitz, which was a camp in Poland.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I always wanted to go there. My mom and I talked about going there for years because, again, hearing my grandparents' stories my whole life, but never really had the opportunity to go. And I had a good friend, Israel Schachter, who was like, you know what, we're gonna have you go. And I knew it was gonna be the absolute hardest experience of my life, but the most important. And I knew it would make my grandparents so proud.
Yeah. What a cool thing to do with your platform, man. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Well, and you turned that trip into a documentary, right? That's what we're talking about?
Yes, a docu-series called How to Never Forget. We made it solely for social media, so it's available on all of my social media platforms.
Yeah.
And, you know, yes, this story is my story, right? It's about my grandparents. It's about my ancestors, my people, the Jewish people. But I knew if I brought all of my followers and also millions of people that may not follow me along with me, this would now become their story also. And hopefully all together we can combat anti-Semitism and all forms of hate.
Yeah, absolutely. Information is key. And so Montana, you told us about your trip with your mom when you went to Poland. So it's part of the documentary, right?
Yes. So this clip that you're about to see, it is my mom and I standing in Auschwitz, which is the camp that my grandma is a survivor of. We stand on tracks where over 1 million Jews were taken, millions of people, millions, but over 1 million Jews were taken to their death. We stand, it's a very, very emotional piece. We stand where my grandmother last saw her mother, and you're gonna see it in this next clip. It's very emotional.
All right, well, let's take a look, everybody.
I think that your great-grandma knew she was going to be marched to her death.
My mom tells me the horrific story of my 13-year-old grandma and her mother being put in the line for death, while her sister was put in the other line, right here on these tracks. My grandma tried to stay with her mom, but her mom had told her, whatever happens, you stay with your older sister.
That saved her life.
The line she left went right to the gas chambers.
I feel like I would have ran to the other line and said, take me with you. I wouldn't have been able to not go with you.
Montana's mom and Michelle is actually in the audience with us today. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Kelly.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So how did you feel when you were sharing that story with Montana?
I envisioned myself as my grandmother and Montana as my mother. And my mother was only 13. And Mengele split them up and separated them. And that was the last place that my mother saw her mother get beaten and dragged to the gas chambers. And I looked at Montana and I said, no one's ever gonna separate us. And she put her arm around on me and we walked arm in arm where my mother had to walk alone. And Montana, I got to walk with my daughter and she got to walk with her mother. And we walked into Auschwitz together where my mother had to walk alone.
Wow. I'm just gonna need a minute.
Every time I walk,
Humans can be, wow. I mean, we can do beautiful things, but we can be horrific. What connections do you feel between the Holocaust and modern day anti-Semitism? What do you feel the connections are?
Unfortunately, I feel there are way too many connections. I visited a camp called Belzec, which is a death camp in Poland. Over 500,000 people were murdered there. There were only 2 survivors from this camp. And they had a small museum there. I went into this museum and there's this picture that really stood with me. It was a picture of all these Nazis laughing and making fun of a Jewish man with his beard. And I saw that picture and that picture really resonated with me because we see photos like that all the time on social media now. All the time scrolling past, you see these types of photos.
It's almost like you're desensitized. 'Cause
Exactly.
you see that, yeah.
And those photos were sent as postcards back to their family, being like, look what I'm doing, which is bizarre. But that's, again, what's happening nowadays, right?
Wow.
With the videos you see surfacing, with the photos you see surfacing. So people say, oh, the Holocaust can never happen again, right? This could never happen again. How can we allow something like this to happen again? But unfortunately, if we don't come together as a community of all religions, races, ethnicities, if we don't come together and combat anti-Semitism and all forms of hate,
history.
it's gonna happen again. I mean, it's unfortunately starting to happen.
Yeah.
So that's why this is so important.
Absolutely. Well, there's a few simple things that you can do right now to help spread awareness and combat hate. The Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism is launching a new campaign called Stand Up to Jewish Hate. They've shared some facts with us that are pretty staggering that you touched on slightly. You've probably noticed that there's a blue square appearing on your screen right now. It's taking up 2.4% of the screen, which actually represents the entire Jewish population in the US. But Jewish people are victims of 55% of all religious hate crimes in the country, which is horrific. All of it is horrific, but like such a small percentage, like it's incredible. So you can help raise awareness by sharing that blue square emoji in your phone on all social media platforms to stand up to hate and intolerance, and just keep reminding people to never forget. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us. It's not easy to like share this kind of story with everybody and walk around with that, especially with people attacking you as well as supporting you. So Thank you for doing
you.
that.
Thank you so much.
For more of Montana, you can follow her on social media. Y'all please do. And also please check out her powerful documentary, How to Never Forget, on YouTube. It's only 23 minutes long, so I encourage everyone to watch it. It's just 23 minutes. We'll be right back.